Welcome to another episode of Black Professional Life Constant Drama. This is the Black Professional Life Underground Talk Show. Welcome. Let's get started. With the development of my book, since it was an autobiography, I speak in writing the book in first person. One unique characteristic of my book is that I was able to find a childhood friend of Bill Williams. This chapter is entitled Willie Goon, and we look at Bill's development before arriving in Orlando. Okay, y'all, let's get into the rest of the chapter and see the development of Bill Williams, aka Willie Goon. I began to read at page 60 of Black Professional Life Constant Drama. I read, "A vulnerable man, this Anderson Hill. Hill would be easy to manipulate because no other Black in town could offer him what Bill would. If there was one thing Bill knew, it was that money can make people do things they wouldn't normally do. This might just be easier than Bill thought. Very few people knew where Bill had actually come from before showing up in Orlando, Florida. In Bill's earlier days, in the backwoods of Arkansas, the wages of sin surely is death, the minister bellowed. We must obey the words of the Lord because only the Lord will guide, strengthen, and protect us. Oh, I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, we must follow the teachings of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. The devil is all around us. If we're not careful, the devil will live in us." The preacher said, surely his son, little Willie Williams Jr., was destined to be a preacher. Willie was born on November the 6th, 1946 in Waukegan, Arkansas. Early in his childhood, his family moved to Cleveland, Ohio. The transition was tough for Willie, moving from a small, wholesome town to harsh urban life. Willie was a big kid, shy, awkward, and timid. Neighborhood kids hounded him like hunting dogs following a trail of blood from a wounded animal. The kids slapped Willie and shoved him to the ground. Willie had a brother, Donald, but he was younger and too small to come to his rescue. Willie's best friend, and just a footnote, this is who gave me the background information on Bill's youth and childhood. Arthur Finley constantly told him to stand up for himself. If you don't fight back and stand your ground, the kids will beat you down unmercifully and call you a punk, Art told him over and over. On the basketball court one day when Willie was 12, a kid named Steve Antoine, a real wise ass and bully, walked up to Willie and tried to rip Willie's nice leather basketball out of his hands. To everyone's surprise, Willie swung quickly and punched Steve before the bully knew what was happening. Steve, in his embarrassment, knowing all the kids were watching him, yelled at Willie, "You ain't nothing but a goon." All the kids laughed. They knew they had witnessed a major event. Scrawny, little Willie Williams fighting back for the first time. "Willie Goon! Willie Goon! Willie Goon!" the kids chanted. The name stuck. As one of the tallest kids in his class, Willie Goon excelled at basketball, starting in junior high and then becoming a high school star. Whenever he entered games or walked into the school cafeteria, he was always greeted by the same words: "Willie Goon!" He grew to hate the nickname more than anyone imagined. At 15, Willie was driving his father's new Buick and wearing new suits to school. Willie stood 6'3" by the time he enrolled in a local community college in Cleveland and started playing ball for the college team. His abilities caught the eye of coaches throughout the region, and Willie joined the basketball teams at Cleveland State University and Missouri State College. Later, Willie would tell people that he graduated from college, but in actuality, he never earned a degree. He left school thinking he would try out for the NBA and make big money. He was never drafted by a team. While at Missouri Southern College, a white bank vice president took Willie under his wing. The man became Willie's mentor and helped him get a job as a teller at a Cleveland bank. He, Bill, went into business for himself by opening a window installation company. As a minority, his company would be given preference in the bidding process. He changed his name to Bill Williams Jr. and ran for city councilman at the young age of 22. He told Art Finley, "I know I can't win, even with all the support I have from my father's church. I just want people to know me as Bill Williams. I have got to shake that Willie Goon label. That has never been me." Bill later switched to the Republican Party, an unheard of move for a Black in those days. He worked his way through the ranks and became to be known as one of those behind-the-scenes supporters that can make or break a local campaign. Of course, the political candidates reciprocated in the most generous of ways. They made sure Bill got all the government contracts he could handle. To Bill's way of thinking, campaign contributions were the cost of doing business. Bill would tell his associates after getting off the phone with some powerful Republican who had been looking for more money, "This donation is going to make me millions." He'd happily make out the check. Bill knew he had to pay to play. Business boomed. Bill sold the window installation company at a huge profit. He opened a construction company in Shaker Heights, a suburb of Cleveland. He preferred to do business outside his hometown. His reputation could be sullied if business dealings turned dirty. Soon, he opened a larger construction company called Bill Doc, named for himself and his partner, Larry Doctor, a banker who could help him with financing big projects. Bill Doc specialized in building prisons, a growing market. Government always were building prisons. He rarely socialized with his old gang in Cleveland anymore. Everything was about business, the people he knew, the political events he attended, the parties he attended. He moved his family into one of the most expensive homes in Pepper Pike, a prominent suburb of Cleveland, where homes start at $500,000. To succeed in business, he developed a shrewd personality. Events in his life also contributed to his cold streak. His younger brother died of kidney failure, and his first wife of natural causes. It seemed incomprehensible, but at times this man, who earned hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, faced intense financial pressure. He came to a crossroad and took a path that would shape the rest of his life. Bill was juggling his financing, acquiring loans based on trumped up loan information. To conduct business this way, he had to give away a percentage of whatever money he received. Everyone down the line needed a small payoff to make them cooperate and keep quiet. Greed motivates people, and it allowed Bill to keep up the payments of his expensive lifestyle while he worked to get more government contracts. When those contracts weren't forthcoming, his scam unraveled. Politicians, bureaucrats, and bankers, the people who had helped Bill for so long, were now running for cover. They had stuck their necks out to get Bill government contracts. Now, state inspectors were complaining about his shoddy work. Contracts weren't being completed on time and within budget. The politicians said Bill would never receive any more government work. On his office walls hung his two most prized possessions: autographed pictures of him standing beside two United States presidents, George Bush, and even hugging Ronald Reagan. A black man hugging Ronald Reagan, the effect of that picture had on people was priceless. Even myself, as I deviate from my reading. Me too. He received a notice from his bank that his signature red Rolls Royce was about to be repossessed. Bill knew it was time to hightail it out of town, and quick. Bill had already borrowed money from Norm Nixon, the former LA Lakers basketball star. Unable to repay the original money to Norm, he couldn't ask for any more. All his sources were tapped out. Bill liquidated all of his assets at rock bottom prices. His interest in a chain of 10 Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants netted $1 million. He could have used the money to pay off his debts, but he needed that money to start another business. So he left town with his debts unpaid, all of them. Bill Williams decided to move south. His personal flair and professional shrewdness would make him successful in the slow and unsophisticated South. First, he tried Atlanta. Atlanta is a black town, so there were plenty of minority contractors. Therefore, the competition was stiff. The other black contractors grew suspicious of Bill. They weren't as naive as he thought. They started checking on him and spread the word. Bill was troubled. Bill moved on, scouting for a new location. He chose Miami, then Tampa, and finally settled on Orlando because a Washington politician had told him about a large federally funded project in Orlando. Bob Billingsley ran into Art Finley, who was visiting Bill. Bob, in previous conversations with Art, knew Art was from Cleveland. I understand that there's a nigger from Cleveland in town named Bill Williams. I got a call from one of my boys in Ohio, and they said, whatever I do, I better meet Bill Williams. Art smiled and pointed at a table full of people across the room. There he is, right over there, Art said. Come on, I'll introduce you. Bill had heard through the grapevine that Bethune-Cookman College, if I may, had been awarded millions of dollars in grants and low-interest loans from the federal government to build several new buildings on campus. Bill needed to get his foot in the door over at the college and start pursuing those contracts. Bob suggested he call the college's internal attorney, Anderson Chester Hill II, who also oversaw construction on campus. Anderson was the college president's right-hand man, Bob said. Bill started calling Anderson, but the calls went unreturned. Bob finally promised to set up a personal meeting with Anderson. Bob said concerns had been expressed at a recent trustees executive committee meeting about the constant rumors of Anderson's alcohol and cocaine abuse. A couple of trustees were uncomfortable with Anderson's sideline venture into the nightclub business. It was common knowledge that he was losing his shirt on the place. For years, Anderson had been the golden boy on campus. He rose through the ranks quickly and was expected to be appointed college president when Dr. Bronson retired. In a controversial move, a trustees committee had voted not to select Anderson as the new executive vice president, second in command at the college. Instead, the position would go unfilled. It was said Anderson had taken the news hard. As the days neared to their meeting, Bill convinced Bob to say his Rensselaer Development Corporation was working with Walt Disney World because Bill knew it would carry weight with Anderson. In exchange, Bill paid Bob $5,000. The meeting went superbly. Bill hadn't felt better in years, not since his prosperous days in Cleveland. Bill felt he had turned the corner. He was on his way back up. He thought of Anderson and knew he could work this man to his advantage. From what he had seen so far, Anderson loved money and tequila. Bill would make sure he had plenty of both. Well, that's the end of chapter 2. That takes us up through page 71. Stay tuned. Here comes chapter 3. But for the white folks, hey, it's real, y'all.